शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So, welcome to the Bhaktyaloka series. Yesterday, we just had a preview of the discussion of the importance of Sri Bhaktyaloka articles or essays written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur on the six favorable and the six unfavorable items uh, which one has to practice, uh, which is described in the Nectar of Instruction, verses 2 and 3. So we first of all had an overview of the Nectar of Instructions, how verses 1 to 7 deal with Vaidhi Bhakti, 8 deals with Raganuga, 9, 10, and 11 deal with Sadhi Bhakti, that is Bhava and Prema. Then when we went into the detail of overview of Nectar of Instruction by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and how when one is self-controlled, he is a Madhyamadhikari, then Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjanam. So what are the Bhakti Anukul Shadgun and what are the Bhakti Pratikul Shadgun? So at entry point, what are the do's and don'ts which will lead to pure devotion, which will destroy pure devotion? Right are mentioned in text 2 and 3. So we saw the overview and then we began with Atyahara. We recited this verse, Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadabir bhaktir vinashrati. Then we saw how Atyahara leads to prayas, prajalpa, niyamagra, janasanga, and laulyam. So there is a linear progression beginning from Atyahara, and that's why Rupa Goswami begins with Atyahara and not with laulyam. So there is a linear progression in these six faults, one leading to another. At the same time, it can be directly laulyam or janasanga can lead to niyamagra, or prayas like that. But generally, this is also one of the ways you can see this Shadadosha. And then the root cause of Atyahara, we saw that heart which is vacant because of lack of love in Atma Suprasiddhati, that heart feels satisfaction in filling the belly, filling the house, and filling the head with degrees. So that's the root cause of Atyahara. And then we began with the article on Atyahar, how it is important to understand the deep meaning of this verse, Atyahara Prayasasa, if anyone wants to engage in pure devotional service. If one neglects to follow this, Atyahara, then attaining devotion to Lord Hari is very rare. Devotion means Shuddha Bhakti here. And it is for the benefit for those who have a strong desire to attain pure devotion that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is elaborating these articles. And then he goes into uh, the article of Atyahar. So Atyahara is not just overeating because already he has spoken about Jivavegam. And then we saw the concept of Vega. Spiritual terms are spoken, words are spoken from the mouth, and they carry concepts in the mind. So what is Vega? Vega is not just desire. It's an urgent desire which wants immediately to be fulfilled. So we saw this concept of Vega yesterday. And then we went further into the article of Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he mentions the urge of the tongue is to taste footsteps and the urge of the stomach is to overeat. So if you understand Atyar in the second verse as overeating, then there is fault of repetition. So that's why we have to find other meanings for the word Atyahar as used by the most grave Rupa Goswami. So this is where we ended our discussion yesterday. So now we'll continue our discussion from here. So we have to find other meanings for the word Atyahar. Although bhojan or eating is the principal meaning of the word ahar, the word bhojan also means to enjoy the objects of the five senses. So where has this term ahar also used as meaning to enjoy the object of the five senses in the Bhagavad Gita? Anyone knows any verse? Please raise your hands. Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Who knows? There is, bhojan meaning to enjoy the object of the senses, and there the term has been used as ahar. The Sanskrit word has been used as ahar. Anyone knows? Please raise your hands. Okay, Janardhan Prabhuji. Yes. Jagdishwar Prabhuji.
युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्म.
Yukta ahar viharasya. Yukta there is regulated. 6.17 year regulated food. Devahuti Kapil Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhuji, there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita, Ahara Nidra Vayamaitana.
Ahar Nidra Bhayamaituna Etat Samanya Pashubir. That is the verse from the Hitopanishads of the Mahabharata.
Something came to my mind. Oh, which verse are you referring to, Prabhuji?
Bhagavad
Yep,
Gita.
Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehina Rasavarjam Rasopyasya Param Drishtva Nirvartate. Nirahar, not giving ahar to the senses. And the Vishaya are sense objects. Vinivartante, you're refraining, by giving nirahar, So, object of the senses, ahar. Ahar also can mean giving, enjoying the object of the five senses. Form by the eyes, sound by the ears, smell by the nose, taste by the tongue, feeling of heat and cold, soft and hard by the touch. In this way, the five senses enjoy. So, this is what is the ahar for the senses. For the senses, it is eyes. For the eyes, it is form, sorry. For the ears, it is sound. For the smell, it is nose. So, Atyahar means not to give too much enjoyment to the senses. If you give too much enjoyment to the senses, then it will become Atyahar. So, there is a deeper meaning now, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is revealing here in his essay, that Rup Goswami is referring to this ahar in the second verse, because he has already spoken about Jiva Vegam in the first verse. So this is how now he is going to continue his discussion on the article based on this concept of what is ahar. This type of material enjoyment is compulsory for an embodied soul. Nirraharasya dehina. Dehina has been used, the word term. Dehina. Dehina means the embodied soul, for the embodied. So, for the embodied soul, there has to be rasa. The jiva cannot live without rasa. Either it has to relish material rasa or spiritual rasa. The moment it gives up rasa, then its very existence is based on rasa. So that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is mentioning. It is compulsory. Without enjoying the sense objects, a living entity cannot survive. As soon as the living entity gives up sense enjoyment, he leaves his body. So there is a famous story during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. There was one famous lawyer who I think during the independence time it was, I think, that he also decided to renounce and give up his worldly life. He was a very rich lawyer. He was a very famous lawyer in Bengal, and suddenly he renounced, giving up all his enjoyment, all his possessions, and he could not live. He died. So the six Goswamis also renounced. They were ministers, but they were what? Tektva turnamashesha mandalapati sada tuchyavat. But gopi bhava samrital hari. But they were absorbed in the mood of the gopis of Vrindavan. Lahari means the waves, the nectarian waves of the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, they were absorbed. So as soon as the living entity gives up sense enjoyment, he leaves his body. Therefore, giving up sense enjoyment is only a figment of the imagination. It can never be applied in practice. So this is very, very important for devotees to understand this statement. Sometimes in the beginning stages of Krishna consciousness, when we come into Krishna consciousness, we want to give up material life altogether, and we think we want to renounce everything. And the mood is good, but it is fanatism. And trying to give up completely sense enjoyment is not possible. And initially, that spirit of renunciation might be good, but too much trying to emphasize on that is not very healthy, and it can be counterproductive. And we have seen it in many, many cases. So trying to, do too much austerity of renouncing the sense objects is not a healthy attitude in the beginning stages. Of course, when one practices pure devotion and attains Shuddha Bhakti, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Tad Ahetukam. Jnanam Yad Ahetukam. So, when Bhakti Yoga attains the Prayojan, then there is renunciation is a byproduct, but artificially trying to renounce without having deep attachment to Krishna. When we have attachment to Krishna, we naturally detach from matter. So that artificial vairagya prayas is not at all good. It's a figment of imagination that we can do that. And if you try to apply it, uh, it cannot it can never be applied in practice. That's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. So one has to be careful about it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he speaks about prayas, there he speaks about different types of prayas, karma prayas, dana prayas, vairagya prayas. So there he goes into more detail about it. So the sense enjoyment spirit is there. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the further article explains that how we should accept sense enjoyment. I feel at this point devotees have questions, but I would request them to hold on. Uh, I have seen your hands. Let us finish the discussion. Uh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has made this statement. Let us finish the discussion and then I will take up the questions. So, this ahar for the senses is always required. So now I have inserted this concept how to spiritualize the ahar of the senses. The senses need ahar. And this is from another article or another book of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he gives this principle how to spiritualize the ahar of the senses. For the eyes, they need beautiful forms. So you give them, beautiful darshan of deities, temples, scriptures, holy places, spiritual dramas, spiritual festivals. So that's how you can spiritualize the eyes. For the ears, scriptures, hearing spiritual songs, lectures, and conversations. For the nose, tulsi flowers, sandalwood, fragrant items offered to the Lord. All these items offered to the Lord, please remember. For the tongue, it is kirtan and prasad. For the touch, the air of the holy places, the pure water, the body of Vaishnava, soft bed offered to the Lord, association of chaste women for propagation of God-centered family. That's how touch can be spiritualized. Times, there is Ekadasi and festivals, and places, there is Vrindavan, Navdeep, Puri, and Naimisharanya. So all the five plus time and place also Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions. Let's continue with the discussion. Lord Sri Krishna instructed Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita 3.5 and 6. Nahi kaschit shanamapi jat tishtatya karma krit karyate hi avashah karma sarva prakrite jair guner karmendriyani samyamya ye aste manasa smaran indriyartan vimoodatma mityachara sa uchyate. Everyone is forced to act helplessly. Sarve prakrite jair according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Karyate hi avashakarma sarve prakrite jair. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, even not even for a moment. Nahi kaschit shanavapi jatu tishtat akarmakrit. One who restrains the senses of action, karmendriyani samyamya, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, ye aste manasa smaran, certainly deludes himself. Indriyartan Vimudatman. He is Indriyartan Vimudatma and is called a pretender. Mityachara Sauchate. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in order to establish his point that sense enjoyment is only a figment of imagination, it can never be applied in practice, he's citing this scriptural quote, and he is going to substantiate his statement by first quoting a scriptural reference and then further elaborating. Since maintaining one's life is not possible without action, one must work to maintain his life. One has to do action. And that's what is one of the arguments Krishna put forth in the Bhagavad Gita for Arjuna. Arjuna wants to renounce and take the renounced order of life and live a life of a beggar, bhikshuk. But Krishna says, no, you are a Kshatriya, and in order to maintain your life, you have to work. That's one of the reasons he gives. Arjuna has to do his karma because, karmanyeva adhikaraste. He has adhikar to perform Kshatriya dharma. But another reason also, in order to maintain his life, Kshatriyas have to maintain their life by, ruling. That's the Kshatriya dharma, in order to maintain their sharira. If such activities are done in the mood of enjoyment, then one's qualification as a human is lost and he becomes as like an animal. Now, here is the very important point that the ahar is required, but when we take the ahar in the mood of enjoyment, then that is the fault. There is atyahara happening. Firstly, we have to not take too much ahar, and ahar is required. You have to take ahar of the senses. I'm speaking here, not of the food here, because ahar deeper meaning was revealed as ahar of the senses. But you have to not accept them in the mode of enjoyment. Therefore, if one can transform all his bodily activities into activities favorable to the devotional service of the Lord, then that is Bhakti Yoga. So, if all these ahar are accepted as favorable to devotional service, then it will become Bhakti Yoga and not sense enjoyment. So now to establish this point, he is going to quote 4 verses. Natyashnastu yogosti, na chaikantam anashnasa, na chati swapnashilasya, jagrato naiva charjuna, yuktahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. There is no possibility of one becoming a yogi. Yogi bhavati yogosti. Oh Arjuna, if one eats too much, na ati ashnastu. Eats too little, na chaikantam anashnata. If one sleeps too much or does not sleep enough, na chati swapna shilasya. Jagrato naiva charjuna. So extreme sleep, too much sleep disqualifies you for spiritual practice. Too less sleep also. Too much eating in the mood of enjoyment. Too less eating in the mood of renunciation. Both are not favorable. So a balance, that's what is being indicated here. And then he who is temperate in his habits of eating, yukta ahara, sleeping, yukta sapnabodhasya, working, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, and recreation, viharasya, can mitigate all material pains by practice of yoga system. So these are the two verses. Then he quotes, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyate tattvavit pashyan shunvan sparshan jigran ashnan gachan sapan swashan pralapan visajan grinan unmishan nimmishan api indriyanindriyarteshu vartate iti dharayan. A person in divine consciousness, yukto mannate tattvavit, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, Pashyan, Shunvan, Sparshan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Shwashan, knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Vartate iti dharayan. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving or opening or closing of his eyes, unmishan, nimishan api, pralapan, vishajan, grinan, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, indriyani indriyarteshu, and that he is aloof from them. Vartate iti dharayan. So 5.8 and 9 he quotes. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining the practical method of how the senses have to be accepted ahar. Although these instructions are effective for jnanis, still their purport is favorable for devotional service. So because these instructions is in the 5th chapter, which is part of jnana, and even the 6th chapter is part of yoga. The concluding verse of Bhagavad Gita explains about Sharanagati or full surrender. Keeping this in mind, one should renounce fruitive activities and philosophical speculation and accept sense objects as the Lord's mercy. So the ahar, too little or too much, will disqualify as human beings. Ahar has to be accepted to maintain the body, but how? Not in the mood of enjoyment, but it has to be accepted as the Lord's mercy. This is known as pure devotional service. Please mark this. If you accept the ahar as pure devotional, as Lord's mercy, then it is pure devotional. Then your practice is pure devotional service. Now, I will further go into the discussion, but up till now, if anyone has any questions, I would like to take up. Any questions, any clarifications about how Bhaktivinoda Thakur is building this concept of what is ahar? Yes, Nandini Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I'm not too much clear about that statement where it says ki, if somebody is like fully restrict the sense enjoyment, then he won't be able to sustain his body. So because we see so many people in Jainism or some other religion where they renounce everything.
Okay, as soon as the living entity gives a sense enjoyment, he leaves his body. Yes, I told you that the jiva cannot live without rasa. And there are practitioners of artificially giving up. This is what is being emphasized here. Artificially giving up. That will not work for a long time. The jiva needs rasa and it cannot live without rasa. So, although one might artificially practice renunciation and reduce the enjoyment of material rasas, but like the Jain Munis, they take maybe roots or fruits or some raw items as their intake, but they are taking some ahar. But that is artificial practice of renunciation. But the point is that what I was trying to explain, that trying to give up sense enjoyment, that is, without having a little, they have certain kind of practice of tapasya, and that is what is sustaining their body, although they have given up uh, enjoying material dresses. So that kind of a tapasya has given up. So that's why they don't leave their body. But the point is that somebody who is not having that strength of tapasya and renunciation, and he artificially tries to give up, then that will lead to his leaving the body. And that I gave the example of that barrister in Calcutta. It's very famous. The well-known Prabhupada speaks about that in his lectures. So that can lead to leaving the body. That is the point. I hope it is clear. Is it
Prabhuji,
clear?
thank you so much. Yes, Prabhuji.
Super Ekshana Krishna Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, the first verse that you referred for Bhagavad Gita, which was it, Prabhu? I didn't get the verse number. The first one which we could not answer anyone.
Ahar. Ahar Vishaya Manivartante Niraharasya Dehina. That is 2.59 in the Bhagavad Gita. 2.59.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So I hope you're getting the flow of what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to explain. That first he gives the deeper meaning of ahar. The deeper meaning of ahar is giving bhojan to the senses. And then he mentions that the living entity cannot live without ahar. If he gives up, then he will die. So trying to artificially give up is only a figment of imagination. And then he quotes these four verses that giving up is, rasovarjam, 3.5 and 6. Nahi kaschit shanavapi, and then, naiva kinchit karomiti. So he quotes these verses, Yuktahara and Nahi kaschit shanavapi, and this he quotes, and then he quotes this, how these activities, the senses can be regulated. Then he quotes this verse, and then he quotes this verse also, which is applicable to Gyanis, and but this same verse has import for also Bhakti Yogis, by which they can practice pure devotional service if they accept the sense objects as the Lord's mercy. This was a very important point. Now, I'll give you an example of this concept of what is the Jnani's perspective when he is doing all these activities of eating and all. Just like you go to a petrol station and you're filling your tank, and you are sitting there and your tank is being filled, and even if it overfills, it doesn't make any difference to you. You're detached. Of course, if you're attached to the car and the money, oh, why are you overfilling? But while the tank is being filled, you don't feel any difference. And that is how the Jnani, Atma Gyan, I'm different from the body. So he does his activities of even, he also takes food, very sattvic food, which is very, very healthy, not very delicious, nutritious prasad. But, he is feeding his body and it's filling his belly but he shows neutrality of indifference. A Krishna conscious devotee who is practicing Bhakti Yoga, first of all, he should see the prasad as the mercy of the Lord. And he's also filling his belly so that he can get energy to serve the Lord. And he's in his heart expressing gratitude that the Lord has sent this Swaprasadana Dilobai, Sayanamrita Pao, Radha Krishna Gungao. But generally, what has been observed, and this is my observation from many, many years, I have seen that devotees, while accepting prasad, they accept in the spirit of enjoyment. And generally, when some item is very good, they start filling the tank. They get affected. They start filling their bag, the stomach bag, by overeating, and they, enjoy it. And the second thing is that instead of glorifying the Lord's mercy in the form of prasad, they start glorifying the cooks who made it. Why they glorify the cooks is because they liked it. They don't see how Krishna liked it and glorify, the cooks from that perspective. So when we see prasad in a spirit of enjoyment, then that's not the practice of pure devotional service. That's the point. If we accept in the mood of spirit of enjoyment, then it's not a practice. But we should accept them as the mercy of the Lord. Now, have you heard the statement that I enjoyed prasad? I enjoyed prasad. Have you come across this statement? Prasad was very, very delicious, because it satisfied my tongue. So this is again in the mood of enjoyment. And after chanting the Mahaprasade Govinda prayers, one devotee announced, please go and enjoy your prasad. This is not a right attitude. Please honor prasad, which is the Lord's mercy. That's what should be our term. So the consciousness, what is your consciousness? That is very, very important. So if you're still in the enjoyment spirit, then again your fault. You are guilty of Atyahara. Now, how to accept the sense objects as the Lord's mercy? For that, now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to quote Rupa Goswami from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the principle of Yukta Vairagya. The principle of Yukta Vairagya. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami has said in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yataramya Upayunjitah Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate Prapanchikataya Buddhya Hari Sambandhi Vastuna Mumukshobhi Parityago Vairagyam Falgu Katyate. When one is not attached to anything, anasaktas vishayan. So the first thing is you should not be too much attached. Oh, today is Rasgulla, wow. Oh, today is Karela, oh no. That means still you are caught in raga and dvesh. Oh, that's also Lord's mercy. This is also Lord's mercy. Accept the Lord's mercy in that mood. But if you say, today this is not good, that is good, then it is you're controlled by the material mellows of like and dislike based on raga and dvesh. I like this, I don't like this. So first one has to be anasakta. Anasakta sa vishyan yataramba upayunjata. But at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna sambandhe. One should, use constantly those items in relation to Krishna. Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. That is called as Yukta Vairagyam. And Prapanchitaya Buddhya. Hari Sambandha Vastuna. Okay, let's see these verses from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Anasaktas Vishayan Yataramba Upayanjita Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagamuchate. The vairag of that person who employs objects suitable for devotional development, Yata Aram Upayanjate, while remaining detached from them, Anasaktas Vishayan is said to be suitable for bhakti. Yuktam Vairagamuchate. The object should be persistently related to Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. Now, three things are there. Anasaktasya Vishayan, then Yatha Arham Upayunjata, and Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. Three things. Now, the classic example for this is the yak tail. You know the yak tail with the charmer which we use in Krishna service. You don't become too much attached to it. In fact, when the charmer, originally I bought it from Nepal, it had the bone, and many were not so favorable to catch it. The bone was there, it was smelling also. But it is pure because it is used in Krishna service, So nobody is attached to the yak tail. And Yatha Arham Upayunjata. It is an object which is suitable for use because it can be used in the service of the Lord for bhakti. It is good. Then it can be only used for fanning the Lord. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, always. It is, So these three things are met for the yak tail. Now take the example of the mobile phone. Anasaktasya Vishan. Are you detached from your mobile? And are you only using your mobile for only devotional activity? Yatha Arham Upayunjata. And you're only Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. It can be employed for other things, for sense enjoyment also. So Yataram Upanjita is not, fulfilling the criteria. And Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhi. So all these three criteria have to be fulfilled. So this is only when you use the objects in this way, then it is Yuktam Vairagya Muchate. Then that is Yukta Vairagya. And then let's see Jiva Goswami's commentary. With this verse, the author shows the type of vairag which is suitable for entering bhakti and which was previously mentioned. The vairag of a person employing upayunjita, material objects, only to the extent that they are favorable for his devotional development, yataram, while being detached from material enjoyment, is suitable, yuktam, for bhakti. So this is the point I was mentioning. So all the material objects are there, but which is suitable for devotional development? We have to see that. And whether we are detached from that material enjoyment. In this, there should be persistence, nirbandha, in relating the objects to Krishna. Now, I'm going to give a very extreme example of alcohol. It's a material object. Can you use alcohol in devotional service? Anyone? Raise your hands. A very extreme example. Yes, Gaur Bhajan Prabhuji. Oh, 3 hands have been raised. Devhuti Kapil Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhuji, like for injury purposes.
Yes, very good, very good. Yes. It can be used only in a certain way if there is some injury as a, antiseptic. There's no other thing and, you find it, okay, you can use it. And you have to be detached because one of the regulative principles is no intoxication. Then it is yukt. Then you can practice Yukta Vairagya. Now, as scent, okay, that's not exactly alcohol. It is, perfumes. It's perfumes, which you use it for the Lord's service. Of course, that gandha smell, we can only smell after the Lord has used it, and then in the form of prasad. And even when you use it in the form of prasad, you should not use it in the mood of enjoyment also. So I hope, and it should be persistently used. That alcohol has to be used only as an antiseptic and not for any other purpose. So you understand this concept. And then प्रापंचिकतया बुद्ध्या हरि संबंधिनी वस्तुना मुमुक्षोभि परित्यागो वैराग्यम फालतो कथ्यते. Rejection of things related to the Lord, Hari Sambandhini Vastuna, by persons desiring liberation, mumukshubhi, who think that these seems simply material objects, prapanchakataya buddha, are called useless vairag, falgu vairagya katyate. So the garlands, the flowers can be offered, but oh, this is Maya. I don't want to enjoy these objects. I'll get entangled. And they are Hari Sambandhini Vastuna. Then you are practicing Falgu Vairagya. So there is Falgu Vairagya, there is Samshan Vairagya, there is Markat Vairagya, there is Sukshma Vairagya, Shushta Vairagya, dry renunciation, and then there is Yukta Vairagya. There are these 5 types of Vairagya, out of which Yukta Vairagya is the most appropriate. So I brought out this. Again, let's see Jiva Goswami commentary. One should also understand what of Vairagya is unsuitable or useless for bhakti. The author then speaks of vairagya of those opposed to the Lord, which ends in offense. So there was one Jnani in North Karnataka. There is a Jnani who speaks on the Bhagavad Gita. Is very, very famous. Just only 10,000 people attend whenever he gives a discourse in a village. He's so famous. And he happened to come to our city in Belgaum where he had a discourse. Again, thousands of people were every day attending. He has a Vak Siddhi by which he can attract people. And is very dry, very renounced. And he happened to come to visit our temple. He was invited to just come and take darshan. And he came. I remember he has read the Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. He has read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And our sannyasi Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj, he welcomed him by offering garland, which is the Mahaprasad of the deities. But he refused to accept it. He refused to accept it, the Lord's mercy. And then Maharaj did not push, although he mentioned that this is garland Mahaprasad, he just, he did not wear it. And then they had discussion on Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Mahaprabhu and Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj could not discuss the conversation of the Vidya Ras, which Mahaprabhu relished. And that's how he, engaged in discussion. But unfortunate, this person that, rejected the Mahaprasad garland offered by Maharaj himself to him. So it ends in offense. Hari Sambandhi Vastu, useful in the service of the Lord, refers to things such as Lord's food remnants. Rejection of objects related to the Lord is of 2 types: not asking for those objects related to the Lord and rejecting them when offered. One should understand that the second type of rejection becomes an offense. This is stated in the Vishnu Yamala. Prasad Grahanana Vishnu Varjayet Vaishnava Sada. The Vaishnava should never refuse the prasad of Vishnu, quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas. Now, further coming back to Atyahara article, the purport of these 2 verses is repeated in Shri Updeshamrit by the instruction to reject Atyahara. So the purport of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1, 2, 255 and 256 is that one should accept Yukta Vairagya by not enjoying the sense objects in the spirit of enjoyment, but as the mercy of the Lord, and practice pure devotional service. That is indicated by one term, by the grave Rupa Goswami in the form of Atyahara. The purport is that if one accepts sense enjoyments in the spirit of enjoyment, that is Atyahara. Please mark this statement. But if the sense objects are accepted as the Lord's mercy and only as far as required and favorable for devotional service, then it is not Atyahara. If sense objects are honestly accepted as the Lord's mercy, then Yukta Vairagya is easily attained. And this is the most misused principle, Yukta Vairagya. The facilities come to us and we enjoy the facilities and not use those facilities in Krishna service, but use it for our own services. So Atyahar, yes, accept it in the spirit of enjoyment. Atyahar, no, accept it as Lord's mercy favorable for devotional service, then Yukta Vairagya is achieved. If you take Atyahar, then it becomes enjoy the sense objects, then you are enjoying in the spirit of enjoyment. But no, you accept them as Lord's mercy, then you can practice Yukta Vairagya. Now, further, Sriman Mahaprabhu's order is to accept sense enjoyment without attachment and chant Krishna's name. Don't endeavor for palatable footsteps and fine clothes. Bhalna khaibe, bhalna paribe. Accept sanctified Bhagavad Prasad that is easily obtainable. This is the devotee's lifestyle. Whatever is required, take only that. Taking more or less will not yield auspicious results. Where we just now discussed about taking more or less, taking less will not yield auspicious results. Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Taking more or taking less will not yield auspicious results. Subha Ikshana Krishna Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhu, we discussed all the sleeping, eating, recreation, so it should be balanced.
Yes. Before that, Nashnasi Yogastu, Na Chanati Anashnata, Na Shapnasi, Shilase, Jagrato Singharga, and then Yuktahar Vitta, yes. If the practitioner takes or accumulates more than necessary, his spiritual life will be lost due to being controlled by material mellows. Taranga Rangini. In the Madhurya Kanamani also it is mentioned. One is, he's floating in the waves of the fringe benefits of bhakti. He's controlled by material mellows. If he does not properly accumulate, then the body, which is his means for worship, will not be protected. So, if you don't accumulate also, then the body has to be maintained. Body is a vehicle. It is a sadhaka sharira. Sadhana sharir it is. And then he cannot do his bhajan. The purport of the instruction is to tolerate the urges of the tongue and belly, mentioned in the first verse is this. The materialist easily becomes greedy to enjoy the finest taste, and being afflicted by hunger, he becomes extremely agitated and enthusiastic to eat and the available foods. This is the material urge. This has to be tolerated. Whenever this type of urge will arise, it should be controlled by the cultivation of devotional service. The injunction to reject Atyahara mentioned in the second verse is a constitutional rule for the practitioner. The injunction of the first verse is conditional and the injunction of the second is constitutional. Now, please try to understand this very, very important concept. Now, what is a conditional rule and a constitutional rule? The conditional rule is that the Vegas, it's not that all the time they come. Under certain conditions, the Vegas come, and when the Vegas come, you need to tolerate. Like you had prasad, your stomach is full, and suddenly there is, hot samosas being fried. And the smell enters your nostrils, and there is, manasa vegam, there is a jiva veg which is troubling you. No, you should say no now. So under certain conditions, these come, the urges, and that time you have to tolerate. But Atyahar is a constitutional urge. 24 hours, because of the emptiness of the heart, trying to do Atyahar is always there. So that's how deep rooted it is. And that is why one should always follow this principle of Atyahar. So NOI 1 verse is conditional rule, these urgent desires, and NOI 2 verse is constitutional rule. Now, the last point, two different types of application. One is for grahasthas and renunciates. There is one more thing to be said. All these instructions have two different types of applications for the householders and for the renunciates. Householders can collect in order to maintain their family members. They should earn their livelihood and save according to religious principles. With these savings, they should serve the Lord, the devotees, guests, family members, and themselves. But how is our criteria? With the savings, first we serve ourselves, our family members, our guests, devotees, and then the Lord. But we should first, with the savings, first serve the Lord, the devotees, the guests, family members, and then ourselves. If a householder collects more than his requirement, then this is an impediment in his devotional service and in achieving the Lord's mercy. So saving too much and earning too much are both atyahar. There is no doubt. A renunciate will not collect at all. That's why he's called as a bhikshuk. If he is not satisfied by the alms he has obtained every day, then he is guilty of atyahar. After getting nice food stuff, if he eats more than he needs, then he's guilty of atyahar. Nice foodstuffs are there, okay, you eat as you eat regularly. But because nice foodstuffs you eat too much, then you're guilty of atyahar. Therefore, the householders and initiates should consider these facts carefully, and after giving up atyahar, when they engage in devotional service, they will attain Krishna's mercy. Raga devesha vimuktestu Vishayan indriyascharan atmamasher vidiyatma prasadam adi gacchati. 2.64 in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks this. Raga dvesha vimuktestu Vishayan indriyascharan atmamasher vidiyatma prasadam. One will attain the mercy of the Lord by not being controlled by raga and dvesh, being free from it. Vishayan indriyascharan. We control the senses from the sense objects by Atmavidev, by following the regulative principles of freedom. Then we attain the Lord's mercy. So that ends the article on Atyahar. So any questions up till now, what we have discussed about Atyahar? One. There's one hand raised. Yes. Shubha Ikshana Krishna Prabhuji.
Prabhu, this is in relation to the prasadam that when we are honoring, it should be honoring, not enjoying. And we should not say that or feel thank you, go and tell to the cook. But in terms of Vyavaharik level, Prabhu, if we are with an intent that yes, this is Krishna's prasadam, so nicely it has been cooked by the cook. So can we go and give them gratitude that thank you so much that you cooked for everyone and it was so nice, having the consciousness that it was Krishna prasadam also.
Yeah, see, generally, many years back, one of the sannyasis told me that when you appreciate prasadna, generally it is done because it satisfies your senses. That's why you appreciate. So genuine appreciation from the heart, because of devotional consciousness and with the devotion the cook has done for the Lord, the center has to be the Lord. So that is not an easy task. It's not easy. So generally, we appreciate because we like it. Like today, I'm a South Indian. Today, dosa was made and I like it. And we appreciate the cook. Tomorrow, he makes paratha, which is North Indian. And I don't like parathas. Why did you make paratha? So if you appreciate, you praise, and then you will criticize also. When something like next day he does a real blunder. At that time also, you accept it as the Lord's mercy and be neutral. That's very, very difficult for somebody to stay. What to speak, I have observed. Suppose the quick cook forgets to add salt and you're wondering, and you know now that salt is not there, and you just tolerate it and you have. Why? Because the Lord also tolerated and had without salt. But generally, our tendency is that, can you get me salt? Because it's not tasting well. So we are controlled by the material mellows. So genuine appreciation done from the heart is okay. But when it is really, actually, generally when we do it, it's not actually because the prasada was nice and it has satisfied my senses. That's what is the general tendency. I hope it's clear.
Yes, Prabhu, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Nandini Mataji. Yes.
Very good, Guruji. Guruji, in the same similar terms, though it is satisfying our senses, but it is prashadam, it is Lord's mercy. So it's not something which like something materialistic. So even if it is satisfying our senses, then like what is the problem? Like because we are not like it's Lord's mercy only, it's prashadam only. Even for kirtan, like if we appreciate or something, then though it is set for like good music or something.
No, we are not going to the root of the problem. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, by honoring, this is there in one article, the Jagannath Prasad, Glories of Jagannath Prasad. By honoring Prasad, he says that one will glide to lower level of consciousness. Like, this is not exactly the statement he makes. I'll find out the statement. Why does Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur say this? One might wonder. Because generally the spirit of enjoyment is very, very deep rooted. It's very deep rooted. So are we really, accepting that in the mood of mercy of the Lord? Try it out. If you say that the prasad is, Lord's mercy, mix everything and try to eat. And don't distinguish this is good, this is, this is sweet, and this is Karela. Mix everything and eat. And do it for a few days. It's not possible, right? So the tendency to, our consciousness is in the spirit of enjoyment. And to see it as the mercy of the Lord is a very elevated state of consciousness. And that's why Yukta Vairagya principle is not easily applicable. You cannot easily apply this principle. So that is the, I, I exclusively cook something for the pure devotee's pleasure or for the Lord's pleasure. And how do I know that? I will not taste it. I will not taste it. I will give it only to others. If you have that kind of a mood, then it is a very elevated state of consciousness. I hope you're getting this point.
Yes, Guruji, I got, but still there's something which is not clear. like
It will take some time. Okay. Yeah. One more last question. Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the wonderful classes. My question, again is related to the Prasadam, Prabhuji. Are you able to hear me, first of all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a few questions are there in my mind regarding this.
What I'll do is, time is up, and you can record the questions. I'll end here because time is up. I have to go to
All
attend.
right, Prabhuji. All right.
Record your questions, and we will pick up in the group. Okay. So I'll end here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Prabhuji. It's all right. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam to you.
Jai Hare Krishna.